Hockey players at all levels, but especially beer leaguers, and particularly beginner to intermediate level beer leaguers, hit a plateau on their hockey development. Now, this might come 6 months in, it might come 6 years in. So how do you get through it and continue to improve at hockey? On this episode of the Beer Leaguer Podcast, we're talking all about plateauing as a hockey player. So this time around, we're going to look at figuring out, are you actually plateaued as a hockey player? And if you are, what are some things you can do to identify what you're actually plateaued at, and how do you bust through those? So first, we're going to talk about what isn't a plateau for hockey development. Not scoring as much as you want, or not being able to pull off fancy moves like a Michigan or something like that. That's not really a plateau. Maybe if you're a high-level person and you're playing hockey for a long time and you're not able to pull off some new skill moves that you're trying, possibly. But for beer leaguers, just not scoring doesn't mean you're in a plateau. See, a lot of people think, hey, usually I score, once a game or once every 2 games or a couple times a game even, but I haven't scored in like 2 or 3 games, something's wrong. Not necessarily. Sometimes, it just happens. It's hockey. It's not the most linear of things at all. So not scoring whatever you want or not being able to pull off fancy stuff does not mean that you've plateaued in your hockey development. Not necessarily. Maybe, honestly, and this is a harsh truth, maybe you're just not as good as you think you are. You think you should be doing a lot better, but you're not. That's not a plateau. That's just having unrealistic expectations of yourself. Never practicing, but expecting somehow to get better game to game to game to game. That's just not practicing, so you're not going to get any better just playing games unless you play a lot of hockey. Doing the same thing every game, the same type of shots, the same moves, the same everything, and not getting any better with them or not having different results. Again, not plateauing. That's just being an idiot, doing the same thing over and over and expecting something new to happen. So, have you plateaued in your development, or have you just hit your peak? Peak hockey player for everybody is a little bit different. It's kind of hard to tell if you're someone that started off later in life, if you've hit your peak. Now, if you're someone that's been playing for a really long time, you probably should know if you've hit your peak as a hockey player because it probably happened already if you're in beer league. So what actually is a legitimate real plateau that you can try and break through? If you don't see your game getting better or evolving, if you're not, like I said, doing the same things over and over again, but you're not in other ways getting better, if you're not having other parts of your game not improving, not just game to game, but chunks of games or season to season like that, and you're actively trying to get better and it's not, that's a plateau. If you have specific skills that you're trying to work on and they're not getting better after you practice them, that's a plateau. Okay, so you've determined you actually have plateaued in your hockey skills development. What do? Step number 1, determine what is actually plateauing. This is going to set up everything afterwards, so this is super important. Really, what you want to do is you want to break it down as much as possible into the smallest bite-sized thing you can so you can figure out everything else after this. So, for instance, if you're saying that, your skating is plateauing, that's a very broad thing to try and fix at once. Whereas if you say, hey, I'm losing speed when I'm turning, it's a little bit better. That's something a little bit more bite-sized you can work on. But if you say, hey, I'm losing speed when I'm transitioning from forwards to backwards skating, okay, that is a small, very tangible thing that you can use to try and improve that on and see improvement on, and maybe build up other skating things from that. So that's like a bite-sized nugget. That's where you want to be. So you want to break it down as much as possible, because smaller goals, easier to see progress on. Progress, always good to see, and really easier to work on. The whole how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time thing, it's kind of like that. And when you're trying to determine what you're plateauing at and trying to break it down, you got to really humble yourself for it. Some people this is easy for, some people it's not. You might have to actually watch yourself play hockey. I know. It sucks to watch yourself play. It looks like you're in slow motion. I understand that. I've seen it. Or get somebody who can honestly, look at your game and tell you something to work on. Or if you have questions on, hey, like I said, like skating, you just say you want to get better at skating, but you can't figure out what particularly to look at. If you have somebody that can go to, hey, I want to get better at skating, can you tell me something very specific to work on? It sucks to hear about things you don't do well. No one likes it, but you kind of need to if you want to bust through on that plateau and get better at it. This is a little bit of a weird idea. Stick with me on this. But there are different types of plateaus. And they all kind of work differently for how you see stuff plateaued, what they do to you. And they all have different ways to try and break through them. So I'm going to explain those as best as I can and hopefully give some context that you'll understand of what I'm talking about and different ways you can try and break through these plateaus. So just trust me, listen, it'll make sense as we go through this. All right, first off, you have someone that's, quote, just playing games. And by that, I mean, you aren't practicing, you're just showing up and playing games and hoping to get better from that. Games are not a great way to practice any kind of skill stuff. A lot of times you will fall back into things that you're comfortable with, and you'll avoid the stuff that you're not good at during games. That's a very natural thing to have happen. So how do you break through that? One, you can either just accept mistakes while you're playing and be like, hey, you're going to do some stuff you're not good at. You're going to mess up. That's okay. Or if you can get the thing you're working on super small, this will be a running theme throughout all of these. It's a lot easier to try and work on one really small thing in the context of a game versus something larger. So again, going back to that skating example, if you go, hey, I'm just trying to get better at skating, that's hard to say how you're going to work on that during a game. Yeah, you skate, but again, to the back and forth transitions, just start doing them a lot during a game. Maybe you suck at them, but that's something you can work on during a game while you're playing in the context of the game and try and get better at it. All right, the next one. We'll call this the I know hockey illusion that some people have. Almost everyone overestimates their hockey IQ. And really, you have to know that there's understanding hockey and there's being able to execute it. Those are not the same thing. Not the same thing at all. And the game looks very different from like what you watch on TV or if you're playing video games or anything like that to understand what they're supposed to be doing versus your first person perspective of what's on the ice and what you can and can't see. It's always a lot easier to see top down and see the entire rink or half rink at once versus your field of view. You can't see everything. You can't see all around you. You can't see behind you. You can't see people behind other people and stuff like that. So a lot of people have the thing where they think, hey, I know hockey. I have a great hockey IQ. I should be able to do this stuff. If that's one of your issues that you're having, what's a solution for that? One, you can watch yourself and as best as you can, pretend it's not you playing and try and take yourself out of it being you. But again, going back to watching yourself on video. Again, same thing I talked about before. Talk to teammates or somebody that's watching games that will give you an honest evaluation about things and somewhat knows what they're talking about, hopefully, to tell you things that you're doing wrong or that you think you're doing correctly that you just don't see. And another thing you can do that you can actually totally do yourself, and this helps a lot with this type of thing, is concentrate on how you're playing when you are not near the puck. A lot of people that kind of have the high hockey IQ, I say in quotes, are real good with everything you should do with the puck, but not great when they're away from the puck because that's not what they watch. It's usually what people, when you're watching the game on TV or even live, that's a lot of times what you're not paying attention to. So if you pay more attention to that when you're playing, that can really help. That can make a big difference. Another thing that people do, another plateau that people hit is falling back into comfort zones. So it's doing the same thing every game. It's kind of your safe plays that you do. It can be anything from you always dump pucks in the zone because you don't want to carry it, to always deferring off, shooting to someone that you deem a better shooter or a better player, anything like that. But just falling back into a very comfortable space all the time and not pushing yourself out of that. And how do you bust out of this? Well, one, concentrate on breaking the habit you're trying to do. Remember, small goals that you have, small things that you're trying to do better, and small skills that you're trying to improve slightly every time. A lot easier to concentrate on doing that versus trying to do something big while you're playing a game. And really, when you're doing something like that and you notice you are always falling back into things that you're comfortable with, it's important to track how many times you're trying to do something that's a little bit outside your comfort zone and not necessarily how many times it succeeds. For the example of saying that you always dump pucks into the zone and you never carry pucks in, look at how many times you tried to carry pucks in, not how many times you successfully got the puck through, 5 other guys and got a shot on net. How many times did you get the pucks, at all move forward without just throwing it into the zone? Look at that stuff versus kind of the end result that you want to get to. Again, small goals, small, little achievable, easily achievable goals that you're trying to set for yourself. There you go. Another type of plateau that a lot of people hit is the idea that having better teammates or a better team will fix them. Really being the weakest player, or honestly even the strongest player on a team, is not always that great, and usually not great at all. You wind up then using other people's skills to, handle things that you're refusing to improve at from yourself. And that's not good. That's not going to help you at all. So if you're doing that, what can you do to bust out of that? Listen, if you're the weakest player on your team, play your role better. Don't try and do everything that's out there. Find what your role on that team is and try and do that better. And that helps you define what you're trying to do and helps you break down, again, smaller and smaller bits of things you can try during a game to get better at versus just trying to be better at hockey. And if you're the strongest player on the team or one of the stronger players on the team, you're still trying to get better, play outside your comfort zone. Do things that you don't normally do. I mean, hey, if you're one of the better skaters, try and do a lot more shooting, maybe play more defense, and actively try and help the other players around you to get better in any way you can. This really goes to a lot of times the difference between having ringers that people don't care about and ringers that are no fun out there. The ones that just sit back and, play defense and don't let anybody get by them. That's not fun. That sucks to play against. No one likes that. You're not doing anybody any good. But the ones that, hey, I'm going to take the puck up and, try and get a good outlet to someone so they can maybe get a breakaway or get the puck in the zone and try and set someone up really nicely for a great shot, or really trying to work something in the offensive zone and work the puck around. Or defensively, we're going to talk a lot more than I normally would to try and involve my teammates and tell them what I'm expecting them to do or what they should be doing. That kind of stuff might not be natural to you, but it'll help you improve as one of the stronger players on your team, while also helping other players on your team as well. Another category type of plateau that people hit, and I think it's a super common one, is you don't want to look dumb. You don't want to fail in front of everybody. This is especially with beer leaguers, with people that start as adults. Kids, they don't care how many times they fall usually. They just get back up and keep going. Adults are way more self-conscious about this stuff for some reason. You don't want to fail. You don't want to look dumb. You don't want to mess something up. So you kind of just stop pushing yourself. Don't. It's beer league. I mean, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It's not life or death out there. So you should push yourself. You have to separate your ego from execution out there and learn from the things that you're failing at. And, I hate this term, but I'm going to use it. Fail up. And by that, I mean, when you fail at something, learn something from that so you get better the next time you try it. So even if you continually fail at trying to do something you're not good at, you incrementally get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. A lot of times as adults, just in general in life, you don't do that. So you're definitely not going to be doing that at hockey. But hockey is a place to do that. Hockey is a place to fall down, to look dumb, especially beginners. One of the best things in the beginner class when I took it is they would stop drills if nobody was falling. So we would be doing skating drills, and if nobody fell, they would stop the drill and go, okay, I guess we have to make it harder and either go faster or do something more extreme of, a skating drill or stick handling drill to really push people. Because if, you weren't falling, you weren't trying. Not saying that everybody had to fall, but if nobody did, that meant the drill was way too easy because that meant everybody could do it with no problem. And I think that's a good lesson to take forward with hockey is when you're trying to get better at it, especially as adults, I'm going to keep reiterating it. Adults don't want to look dumb in front of the other adults for some reason, especially when they're trying something new. Like hockey, it's difficult. There's a lot of things going on at once. You've heard me talk about it with like Mike Steiner when he's been on the show, that a big difference between low-level and high-level beer leaguers is high-level beer leaguers started skating when they were young usually. So they don't think about it. It's like walking. They're just worried about doing all the other non-skating stuff. Whereas people that started as adults, we're still trying to think of skating. It's still very much on our mind. It's not something you do automatically. So when you try and do other stuff, it's like short-circuiting because you're trying to do too much stuff at once. You're going to fail at it. You're going to fall. Who cares? Especially if it's in front of other people, who cares? I get if you don't want to do that in the middle of a game, but if you're not in the middle of a game and you're in some kind of learn to play or skating practice or something like that, or a stick and puck, who cares if you look like an idiot? Fall all over the place. You're wearing pads. You're not going to get hurt. Okay, I think that made my point.
Let me take a quick moment to invite you to head over to thebeerleaguer.com, where you can check out previous podcast episodes, keep up with all the goofy and sometimes informative social media posts, and contact the show. There's an easy-to-use contact form, a button to leave voicemails, and a newsletter sign-up. All of us here would love to hear your thoughts on this episode or ideas for future ones. Now back to the show.
And on that note, I'm talking about skating. Skating, I think, is kind of its own thing because more so than any other skill in hockey, skating can limit everything you can do. You could be an amazing stick handler, but if you're a terrible skater, that's going to limit you so much. But beginners especially seem to stop working on getting better at skating once they kind of get basics down and you start playing. You just kind of forget that you need to get better at skating. Like you've hit this level and a lot of people just stop. And there's so much more to do with skating than just like the very basic, I don't fall down all the time on skates. Usually speed is not the issue with beginner beer leaguers. You have kind of your speed you can get to, but it's usually more a problem with agility and efficiency. So maybe you skate really fast, but you just get tired right away so quickly from it, more so than you should. Or you can skate fast, but you're not at all agile. So you can't, change directions or anything or really do anything else besides go straight line. So straight line speed, not the be all end all. It's agility and efficiency are as, if not more important than that. And really, honestly, most plateaus that you have with skills are probably a skating plateau that's holding that back. So you can't do those other skills like you want to. So what can you do to try and get better with skating? Like I said, break it down into small things. Find small things in your skating that you can get better at. Get better at your skills, the mechanics of your skating. It's not really like a fitness thing. It's the mechanics of skating. I'm sure we've all seen kind of higher level beer league guys that totally look out of shape and look like they have no business being out there with a bunch of kids. But you just find out somehow they're always going to the right spot. They always get there. They're out skating people because they have amazing mechanics that have like stayed with them since they were kids. You can work on things like edges or your skate control and other stuff that's not necessarily just speed. Small area games is a great help. By me, we have a rink that has like a half rink that you can play at. And it is the most tiring hockey you will have because it is almost nothing but stops and starts. It's like you skate a stride, maybe two, stop, change direction, stride or two, stop, change direction, like, because it's a small, like, half rink. So when you play that with like two goalies on it, it is insanely exhausting, but it is a great way to work on stopping and starting and your agility, because there isn't a lot of room to move around. So you are constantly kind of driving him to shift and move and jump around and stuff, more so than on a full rink. And finally, get a skating instructor. There's tons of power skating coaches out there, figure skating coaches that will help out hockey players, younger hockey players that will help out older hockey players. They're out there. Join a class, get a couple people together and hire somebody to do a couple sessions with you. Do a private session if you want, but they are definitely out there. There's lots of ways to get skating instruction and getting better with your skating, and then also use that to identify certain things that you need to get better with your skating can really help a lot of this other stuff. Okay, back to the regular scheduled program. All right, the plateau of I just want to get better. That's the thing you hear a lot, is someone just goes, well, I just want to get better at hockey. I'm reiterating it through all of these things. You need to pick something particular. The smaller, the better. Okay? I think I've reiterated that enough, hopefully, for everybody. There is the people that are playing on the wrong level causing a plateau. So when you play at too high of a level, you're just kind of like in survival mode the whole game. You're not getting to really do anything. You're just trying to survive out there. And when you play at too low of a level for yourself, you're probably not even trying. You're on autopilot the whole time. So what do? I mean, obviously, change level you're playing at, change teams you're playing on, maybe mix it up and play on a higher or lower level team occasionally. If you have like fill-ins or reserves that you can get on at a different level, maybe do that to help out. Try and find some pickup games or stick and pucks or something like that to get in that's at a different level than what you're currently playing at. And, see if that could help you maybe assess the things that you're not doing as well and find the faults in your game. You can think you're doing pretty good and you don't know why you're not getting better, and then go play a couple pickups that are, a step or two above where you probably should be. Not huge jumps, but like step or two above where you should be. And those faults in your game will come out very quickly of the things that you're not good at and the things that you need to improve at. And you can take those back and go through the rest of this list. Hopefully find ways to improve those things from that experience. And finally, the last thing I have to talk about plateaus are people that don't practice at all. I mean, come on. If you're not practicing in any way, shape, or form, not doing anything off ice, not trying to get better, but then complaining that you're not getting better, I don't know how to help you. I don't know how. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully no one's doing that. Hopefully that makes sense. That if you're trying to get better, you need to do something to try and get better. It just doesn't magically happen. I'm sorry. It really doesn't. I wish it did. All right. So hopefully you have some generic ideas of what you can do to try and bust through a plateau, things you can do to try and get a little bit better. How can you measure the success that you're having so you know you're working to get better? It's actually doing something for you. Like I said in the beginning, points, goals, assists, things like that aren't necessarily the best way to show improvement. Are you doing things like you're panicking less in certain situations because you know how to get out of them? You know how to go around them. Are you finding yourself in better positioning for things? Maybe you're not having to skate as much at certain times because you're getting to better spots for stuff. Are you doing things like having fewer turnovers or touching the puck more? And that's helping out. Again, if you have small goals, they are a lot easier to tell if you're doing something better. Like, hey, am I skating better? I don't know, maybe. Hey, are my, transitions from forward to backward skating, that very small particular thing that we talked about in the beginning, is that getting better in this game? Why, yes, it is. I can tell that is getting better. That's a lot easier to do. See, guys, it all intertwines, all works out here together. All this stuff. All right, so to wrap this whole thing up, you hit a plateau, you think you've had a plateau, what can you do? If you know something you want to get better at, try and break it down as small as possible. Like I've been saying through this whole thing, smaller goals, easier to see, easier to achieve. Plateaus are not a dead end. They're just a sign that you've really started to outgrow your current approach to hockey. I'm hoping that that helps give a little bit insight in how to get better at hockey, especially if you've hit some kind of plateau, especially for you beginners out there that started off, you're skating, and you're not sure where to go from there. Hopefully this helps you find the next thing you want to work on and some ways you can actually get there. Are you currently sitting in a hockey plateau, or have you just busted through that plateau? Or did you just listen to all this and go, I don't really know what I'm not doing right and I'm lost? I'd love to hear all those things. Try and help you out. See if we can get other people to help out as well. You can drop a message down in the show notes. There's a link for text the show if you'd like to send a text message to the show. Or you can also, as always, go check out thebeerleaguer.com and you can email the show from there and let me know. I'd like to hear about all that stuff. If any of this stuff has worked for you, if this is something you're working through, or like I said, you're stuck on what the next skill that you're trying to improve is, let me know. As always, thanks a lot, everybody. Catch you in the next one.
Thanks for sticking around. I wanted to let you know that we added the ability to text the show. If you check out any of the show notes for any of the newer episodes, you'll see a link called Text the Show. Just click that and it'll open up your text app of choice. There, you'll see a code automatically inserted into your text message. Please leave that there. That makes sure your message gets routed to the show properly. Add your message and just send it away. We only get to see your area code, so if you want to include your name to be mentioned, make sure you include that in your message. Give show topics you'd like to see, comment on previous episodes, tell us what we missed, or what book, movie, YouTube video we should be checking out. All the messages are seen, and most go into planning what we do next, or get mentioned in a shorts episode recapping what we missed. Thanks for listening.